Hello, everyone, and welcome to Film Dispute. My name is Kevin,
And I am Nate.
and we are going to be talking about The Martian today.
The Martian, yeah. So The Martian, it stars Matt Damon and a bunch of other named actors such as Jessica Chastain, Chiwetel Ejiofor, I believe his name is pronounced.
Elijah something like that.
Elijah Ford, I'm sorry. Jeff Daniels, Kate Mara, Sean B, and so many other people. This has a huge cast here. Matt Damon plays Mark Watney, an astronaut who is left stranded on Mars during a mission. His team thought he was dead, but he's not. So Mark has to figure out how he's going to survive on a planet with no natural resources like water, hoping that at some point somebody will save him.
Yeah, the 2015 adventure drama sci-fi directed by Ridley Scott of Alien and Blade Runner fame. The screenplay is by Drew Goddard, and it's actually all based on the novel by Andy Weir. It came out October 4th in the U.S. and October 2nd everywhere else, basically. It's got a runtime of 2.5 hours, which is...
Wow.
It seems
Yeah.
longer than it actually feels. It's definitely... This movie flies by, and it's good. Budget of $108 million, and it grossed $228 million domestically.
Really?
So,
Wow.
and $630 million altogether. For a PG-13 movie, I mean, what more can you expect? Ridley Scott.
The movie's PG-13?
Yes.
What?
Only has one F word in it.
I did not even realize. I thought they said that like a bunch.
He says it once, and then the rest is muffled because he's in the
okay.
rover. He says it one time.
Oh, yeah, it is. I did not realize.
Yeah, he's fancy with it.
Okay.
Crafting. Like you said, Matt Damon playing Mark Watney, Jessica Chastain, Kristen Wiig, Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels actually went to school around here. He went to Central Michigan University,
I did not even know that.
which was interesting.
That's crazy. I thought we only had Tim Allen and
That's it. We got
who
Toy
else?
Story, and that's it.
Yeah, right.
And the Tool Man. So let's just get right into it. How about that?
Yeah. So Kevin, what did you think of The Martian?
Dude, I love space movies. I'm a Star Wars fan. I love everything space, except for Gravity, and
Yeah,
the
I mean,
movie Gravity. And you know, this is a fun one. Matt Damon. I love Matt Damon. A lot of people don't like him, but I think he's great in this movie. Jessica Chastain, obviously, but I also love the attention to detail that was paid. And Ridley Scott's really set an example with this movie as far as detail goes. And I think Interstellar tried to match that, but this movie's really accurate. And one of my favorite one of my favorite astronaut movies is Apollo 13.
Okay.
And I think the dialogue in that movie is fantastic, and I think this movie rivals it.
Okay. I thought it was okay. Okay. I mean, I'll say this. It's definitely Ridley Scott's better movies, or like one of his better movies. I think, like, honestly, when this movie first came out, when I first saw it, I thought it was good. It came out like 2015, I believe, right? And so I thought it was a good movie. I thought it was funny, and I thought it was just like it took a nice spin to like the survival movie. And back when this movie first came out, a lot of people praised it because it came out at a point in time where Ridley Scott was, I don't know, his movies were very inconsistent, like in quality. He was coming out with like really crappy movies. Like, I mean, have you seen like a lot of Ridley Scott movies?
Not a whole lot. I've only seen Alien and Blade Runner, but I
Okay.
love those movies, and
Yeah, I've seen Alien, I've seen Blade Runner, and both those movies are great. Blade Runner is a little bit slow, but I love Alien.
Yeah.
That one's a great movie. And I've seen Gladiator, which was it was a pretty decent fun action movie. I only saw it once when I was like I'd say 13, I believe. So it's been a while since I've seen that movie. But as far as I know, I didn't watch like Prometheus or his newer movies, much of them, just because like they haven't had too much of an interest for me. But like as far as I know, his track record has been pretty inconsistent from what I hear, especially with his newest movie, Alien Covenant, which I heard was really bad. I don't know. It's but so that's why I thought when like a lot of people thought when this movie came out, it was just like a breath of fresh air. And I don't blame them because, this movie it's beautiful. One I'll say, yeah, it's beautiful. The cinematography in the movie is absolutely amazing. And the most importantly, it looks genuine. Mars, Mars, it looks like...
We really get to, speaking of Mars, this is one of the few films, especially sci-fi adventure drama films, that you get to really experience a planet. You get to cover a lot of Mars in this movie, and just to be able to zoom out on a planet and to see someone's travels, I thought that was interesting.
Exactly. And for a planet that pretty much, for an atmosphere that doesn't have like much really going on in it,
it's all one color, but it's almost Lawrence of Arabia kind of beautiful. Exactly. With the deserts and stuff like that.
Yeah, it looks good in the sense where it looks good during the day, it looks good at night. It's just like, I don't know.
Even the interiors, the you get the sci-fi interiors of the hub and stuff like that.
And it just makes it only creates a little bit of tension on how like small Matt Damon is compared to this large.
Yeah, I love the contrast as well with the white walled interiors and everything's fancy and put together nicely, and then the vastness of Mars when you get outside there.
Yeah, so definitely the production in this movie is great. The performances are really good. Matt Damon. My thing with Matt Damon in this movie is that he does a lot of comedy. He's very optimistic. That's his character. He's very optimistic. He doesn't, with no matter what problems he goes through, he tries to figure out a way optimistically.
Oh, for sure. And I want to start out with the first scene where, I don't know if you caught this, but the music during the title sequence of The Martian doesn't fit the tone of the film. It's more scary sci-fi 2001. The Martian's more Apollo 13. Like, can you imagine Apollo 13 opening with scary sci-fi music? I mean, the movie's not really scary.
No, it's very...
Do you ever expect Mark Watney to not get off Mars in the entire movie? I mean...
Honestly, like... That's my big issue with the movie. I feel like it's very predictable, and like honestly, you know that he's gonna get out because it seems like every choice he makes throughout the movie, it always goes right. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
No problem. Well, so we start out and we're on Mars. And there's the group, and they're doing whatever they're doing. They're doing some kind of I can't remember whether they're digging.
They're just doing they're on a mission.
Samples,
yeah, they're on
like
a mission in Mars, basically.
And then a storm kicks up, and so but when they learn the true intensity of the storm, Watney's the only one who wants to wait it out, and he's gonna get that wish because he's gonna be there for quite some time.
Yeah, like 500 souls they say,
500
which is
souls. I just thought it was funny because I never really picked up on that he was the only one who wanted to stay and wait out the storm.
So the storm kicks in, and then of course he decides that they want to wait it out, but of course it doesn't go right because he ends up getting knocked down by what is it, like a satellite? Yeah, like in a satellite,
some kind of antenna,
and
it pierces his suit, and because of the blood and the suit's material, it's able to stop the bleeding and to kind of heal over. Yeah. And so he wakes up, I think, a couple souls later, maybe the next day.
I'm pretty sure it's like the next day, but of course his crew left him.
Oh yeah, left him. Definitely. They pieced out of there. It was Jessica Chastain's Commander Lewis's decision.
Right.
And they pieced out of there.
Yep, he's stuck there for a while, and like already, like when you see him wake up, he's already going through trouble by having a freaking antenna stuck into his body.
And there's a moment of where he's like there's like 1 or 2 days where he's on Mars and he's just healing, and he doesn't really know whether he's gonna like live there or whether he's just gonna give up and die.
Yeah, right.
And there's definitely a turning point in the movie where he's like, I think he even says, "I'm gonna get off this," or "I'm not dying here," something like that.
Right.
And that's the switch in the movie. Where
it seems like, I mean, honestly, like after that, it seems like he's already jumped into like, all right, I'm gonna try to get out of here. Or I'm just gonna. Like,
we can't skip over the surgical scene though. That's a pretty powerful scene. I don't know how you felt about it.
I mean, it was just like when I first watched it. Yeah, it was pretty, disgusting. I guess you really do. Matt Damon does do like a pretty like genuine performance, and like you see him in pain and like breathing really hard throughout that sequence, and it's just like,
And throughout that sequence, that's when you first get introduced to the diegetic camera in a way where the camera, it's like a GoPro in, or even a camera on a laptop or something like that he's talking to for most of the film. Most of the cameras, that's what kind of makes you into the movie, because most of these cameras are real life cameras and you're not being tricked at all.
it was a nice spin, because it's hard for these like survival movies, these one man survival movies, where when they're by themselves, it's not like they can talk to themselves. So by him having to record these little logs or diaries, it helps us to show like his character.
Yeah, definitely. We get his personality, and it's interesting because we get his personality without anyone around. It's basically his thoughts, because it's, if you're in the bathroom talking to yourself, that's what we're getting from Mark Watney, because he's all alone. And so we definitely know that we're getting his character and his character alone.
So let me first, before we get into any more of the story, what do you think of Matt Damon, like Mark Watney's character?
Mark Watney's character, when I didn't read the book before I saw the movie, and I expected his character to be a little more serious, but he was a fun, quirky character, and you got to see him kind of lose his mind a little bit, which was fun, and it was definitely a more fun character than I expected.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's sort of, his character is sort of like, I don't know, a preference to certain people. Personally, I think he's kind of like cringy and like annoying in the movie. Okay. I mean, but at least he does have like a personality, and he's not just like a blank slate. But like some of the jokes that he like pulls is just, I don't know, it's kind of just like annoying to me. I'll be honest.
I can see that. I don't know. I make some dumb jokes myself, so I can kind of relate to that.
Maybe, dude. Maybe it's just my sense of humor. I mean, I just like more dick jokes, or like just stuff like that. You know?
I'm sure you're not the only one with that complaint.
But I just like remember hearing that the how clever, a lot of people saying that the writing here is so clever and everything. I'm just like, yeah, I mean, it's funny, whatever. It's just like, I don't know. It's not for me, I guess.
So let's compare The Martian with other movies from the same year. We've got Star Wars Episode 7. Did you prefer that to The Martian?
Really? Star Wars came out 2015?
It did.
That feels so weird that it came out like just then. I would probably prefer The Martian, to be honest. I mean, Star Wars, was as far as like me anticipating for the movie, that was the stakes on waiting for a new Star Wars movie to come out. Then definitely, Star Wars. But like as far as judging it by like a movie, I'd say like The Martian was a better made film. I don't know.
Yeah, one more quick one: The Hateful Eight.
Oh, Hateful Eight by a mile. I mean, you can't really judge that though. I mean, because they're
very different movies.
They're very different movies, but that movie is freaking amazing.
Yeah.
I love that movie.
I completely agree.
It's like my third or second favorite movie by Quentin Tarantino, to be honest. Actually, it's a great movie. But yeah, like I said, dude, like Matt Damon is, he plays a decent character. He's not too annoying, but he meshes between like, being serious and funny. More funny than serious, but it works for him.
Yeah. What did you think about the first 10 minutes? Everything pre Mark Watney getting himself fixed up.
I mean, it was interesting.
Compared to the rest of the movie, is it worse or better?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, like, I thought it was an okay way to start a movie. I don't know. I mean, I can't remember too much, honestly. Like, it starts off with them like in the planet, right?
Yeah.
And they're, just doing whatever, and then the storm hits. And so I'm like, yeah, I guess stakes are high there, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it's just interesting that the main disaster that got this whole thing started is kind of forgettable to me, because the first 10 minutes of this movie I always forget. And it's good. It's a good 10 minutes, and it really gets you in there, and it gets you to learn about these other people and their personalities. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, the main crux of this the storm is what gets Mark Watney in this situation in the first place, and I always kind of forget that.
I don't blame you. I mean, honestly, like, there's a lot of things that I have trouble like remembering in this movie, because it's just, I don't know.
I kind of remember this movie as like 5 different montage sequences because there are
a lot. There are a lot
with
of
some good music
montages
behind
here.
them, but there are quite a few.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you can't blame them though. You gotta have those like montage sequences because this guy. I mean, they're going through like 530 days or whatever. Like of this guy staying in this planet, so it's not like you can go through each day. You know.
Definitely. It's actually Jeff Daniels, which is the director of whatever. He makes the statement to the people, and so they're basically dead. Like Mark Watney's dead. They're planning the funeral, everything else, and then they finally realize that they see the movement. One of the NASA people on the computer sees the movement of the MAV, and suspects Mark Watney might still be alive.
Right.
And that's what gets the ball rolling on NASA's side.
Yeah, definitely. And there's also you also see Mark Watney, decide that, okay, I'm gonna try to have to survive here, so I'm gonna plant. I'm gonna try to find a way to plant food to be able to survive with no water.
Yeah.
So him explaining like the process of being able to like produce water and all that stuff, it's interesting. It is interesting, and it seems logical, I guess. I'm no scientist, but like, so like, and I don't know if like scientists like ever debunked like if he would be able to do this, but then again, it's a movie.
Yeah, I think part of that is that we haven't even gone to Mars yet, so it's hard to say.
It's hard to say, yeah, exactly.
But yes,
but the way that he explains it, simply too, with his personality,
you buy it. 100%.
You buy it. Mm-hmm.
What do you think about Kristen Wiig's character in this movie?
Kristen Wiig?
Yes.
She's in this movie?
She is in this movie. She's the assistant to the NASA director, and she has about 10 lines, but she's featured in a lot of the scenes. And I don't really like her character. She kind of points out the obvious, and she kind of, I don't know. I think she...
I honestly completely forgot about her. I think I do...
she's just an unnecessary character.
Yeah.
Everything she says, we already understand. And
okay, yeah, I remember her now. Yeah,
she's the one who says this is going to be a shitstorm on social media and stuff, and it's just like, I don't know, it's the least important part of the film for me.
To be honest with you, there's a lot of characters I really do not care for. I don't care about Jessica Chastain's character, honestly. The only thing that's like interesting about her is that she likes disco 70s music.
Yeah.
Kate Mara and Sebastian Stan's character, they just have like a forced like relationship with each other.
Michael Pena's character I really like.
Honestly, yeah, and like out of all the characters, Michael Pena was actually really good considering for his track record and a lot of the characters he plays. Usually he plays like these stereotypical like Mexican characters.
Yeah, and Sean Bean's character is really good too.
He's really good too. I love the scene with Michael Pena and Matt Damon. They're both communicating with each other through the thing.
And the Chiwetel Ejiofor and Benedict Wong, that dynamic is really good too when they're talking about.
Oh yeah, Chiwetel Ejiofor. I mean, there hasn't been like a movie where he's disappointed me. He's just like an amazing actor. But like back to like that one scene with Michael Pena and Matt Damon where they're communicating each other through the computer and just I love that scene where Michael Pena just says to him, we meant to leave you out in Mars because it was just because we didn't like you, I guess, or like
because we just didn't like you. Yeah,
that's
a good scene.
We take turns doing your chores, but it's
not real science. It's just botany. That's a good.
It's just botany.
That's one of his better lines.
I do love that. So surprisingly enough, I did like Michael Pena in this. But otherwise, like not too many of the characters in this movie besides like Matt Damon, Chiwetel Ejiofor, Jeff Daniels, like okay.
Yeah, there's only about 3 main characters, I'd say.
And the character that I find so unnecessary, I don't know the reason why Donald Glover is in this movie.
I was just gonna mention him just after. I get that. I mean, he's the one. He's even in Apollo 13, there was the one guy in the back who knew who did the special math and realized the mistakes that NASA was making.
Yeah.
And he has that scene where he points it out. And this is another reason why I hate Kate Mara, and I kind of like that she gets that pen on her forehead by Donald Glover, because she's just unnecessary in this movie, and Donald Glover the same.
Yeah, no. I mean, and just this character too is just like, I feel like Donald Glover's just like trying way too hard to play this caricature.
Yeah, when he's tripping over the trash can,
yeah,
and he spills water, and he literally does a spit take. I was like, oh my gosh.
So I don't know. There's just no point to him, I feel like, and I think like easily any other character could do it, and I just felt like they just wrote this character just so they could have Donald Glover on screen. Yeah. To be honest, because this was at a point where he was starting to get much more popular.
Definitely.
But
so is going back to the story, Mark Watney, he's on Mars and he's making potatoes. He's got it figured out. And
making
at
potatoes
35,
with his own poop.
yeah, with his own poop. And who is it? Johansson. When he opens up that poop bag. Jesus, Johansson. So at 35 minutes into the movie, Mark Watney's biggest problem is the bad music he has to listen to in the shower. So you really get to figure out this movie's about to go down because you still got 2 hours left. You know some stuff's going to go wrong.
Right.
And another thing is that this movie isn't person versus person. It's not even person versus time. It's person versus science, and it's kind of Mars is the bad guy in this character almost, or in this movie almost, because it's just trying to escape a place that's unescapable.
Exactly. Yeah. As far as like other movies go, with these type of survival movies, I'm not sure. It's very interesting because I think of movies like, have you ever seen the movie Buried with Ryan Reynolds?
I don't think so.
It's like another sort of type of movie like this, except it's like, you know, it's Ryan Reynolds is he's trapped inside a coffin, a box, like underground, and that's the entire movie. It's him underground, and it kind of reminded me of that in a way. They're both like pretty different, like, you know, different settings, of course, but
I'm just curious, did someone have to save him in that movie you're talking about?
Yeah, so basically, like, the only thing he had was a cell phone and a flask and, like, a lighter. That's really the only thing he had, and so he had to call people on his phone, like the police and everything, to be able to try to get out of there. And what reminded me of that movie was that both Ryan Reynolds and Matt Damon, they have, like, pretty similar personalities. They're both very cheeky and, like, smart asses, but, like, I mean, I guess the only difference is that Mark Watney is a botanist and he's really smart, and the Ryan Reynolds character is like a truck driver. Yeah. And he doesn't really know anything. So I'm like thinking about that movie, and I do really like survival movies. I've seen like a lot of like one man shows. That's what I really like about this. Even though the Martian's technically not really a one man show, there's a whole bunch of other characters. I think that's something that I wish I could see more than in, even though this is like a 2.5 hour movie, is seeing Matt Damon figure out other ways, like see more conflict. Yeah. Because that's my biggest problem with the movie, is that there's not much tension. You know he's going to get out of this.
From what I understand from the book that this is all based on, there's definitely twice the amount of conflict that this movie entails.
I guess that's true, but like this is not the book, you know?
which is what I'm getting at, because this is a failure on Ridley Scott's part, in my opinion, where he didn't quite squeeze all the suspense out of the book.
Yeah, which is something that it's surprising to me, because that's something that Ridley Scott's actually really good at. He's good at making like creating suspense.
What I would have liked is that, because on the rewatch, I realized that NASA and Mark Watney are basically on the same exact page this entire movie. There's no miscommunication. Right. They know everything, and everything goes to plan except for, you know, a rocket blowing up and other stuff like that. The HAB blowing up, whatever that structure on Mars is.
Yeah.
Those are the only things that stop Mark Watney from getting to where he wants to go, which is home. But they're on the same page the entire time, and I think they left a lot on the table with that, because there's people, even the tagline of the movie is help is only 140 million miles away, But communication's just fine, which I felt that's a big miss in a movie like this.
It
where
is.
You could have had some major drama with miscommunications and stuff like that.
It's a problem. I'm not into it. It's just like not feeling afraid for Matt Damon.
Yeah.
And
Because not even an hour into the movie, 48 minutes in, they established 32-minute round-trip communication, which is pretty helpful
Really?
when you're trying to escape Mars. So I felt they could have, had some communication issues or something like that, something to add to the drama.
Yeah, I suppose so. I don't know.
Yeah, and then he only has to rewrite 20 lines of code to, I don't know. There was a lot of stuff that was kind of left unexplained.
Yeah.
But the music, how do you feel about the music in this movie?
I did not like it at all.
You didn't like the music?
I did not.
Yeah.
I really did not like. I mean,
my mom listened to all that stuff.
well, hold on. That's not my the music, like the disco and the 70s music. That was all fine and everything. I didn't mind that.
Like the David Bowie.
But I'm talking about like the score, like the original score.
Yeah, no.
It's very.
I was
generic.
talking about more the
the
soundtrack.
the soundtrack. Yeah, those are fine. It makes it more upbeat and everything. But like, I'm like as far as like the original score goes, it's so generic and like,
I think the score. I couldn't agree more. I think it's garbage. But the soundtracks, just because of the actual music. Again, using the word diegetic. It's the diegetic music in the movie, which just makes the whole thing more believable, and you're able to get sucked into the movie.
Yeah. No, like I said, I really liked. I don't know. It just felt more upbeat, I guess, playing all that music, especially hearing Matt Damon's reactions to them and how annoyed he is about it. But I thought it was fine. It wasn't like too amazing.
Yeah.
And
one of my favorite scenes in the movie is when the hub finally blows and his helmet is cracked and he's got to duct tape it back together. I thought that was a great suspenseful scene.
I mean, yeah, I guess so. I guess it had like a little bit of tension, but I knew he was still gonna get out of this fine. That's what I'm like saying.
but just because of the immediate danger of him being dead, mixed with the long-term danger of now his food supply is gone and he doesn't know where he's gonna get it from, and so just those two mixed, I felt it was good because. Even though he's duct taping that up, and the scene's so quick that you don't really have time to think, oh, is he actually gonna die? You don't have time to think, oh, we still have 2 hours left of this movie.
I guess that's true, yeah, and especially when you see his reaction afterwards, he's literally banging on the like yelling, getting angry. So yeah.
So once they go to send the rocket, the resupply, the director of NASA. He decides how long, because it's all a time thing. They're just trying to speed this up. And so he decides to not do the secondary checks on the rocket. And he asks, what are the chances that the checks show something wrong with the rocket? And they say 1 in 20. And so, personally, I kind of want to pose this question to you. If someone said, we need to speed this up, chances are 1 in 20, I would have said yes, too. I would have said screw the checks.
Yeah. Wasn't it Jeff Daniels who was opposed of doing that?
Yes. He's the one who finally makes the decision to skip the checks, and that's what gets the rocket to explode later. But I would have, I was watching the movie for the first time. I was with him, and I was like, let's get Mark Watney back. Let's skip the checks. Obviously, we knew where that was going. When someone in a movie says, oh, let's skip this, what are the chances it goes wrong? You know it's going to go wrong. But I thought 1 in 20, pretty low. Mark Watney's got some bad luck.
He does, dude, man. He really does. What did you think about the scene when the crew decides whether they want to go back to see Mark Watney or going back home? Because to be honest, I felt like it was pretty rushed.
Yeah, it was rushed. I think it was mostly rushed because I knew the answer. I knew they were all going to say yes, and so I was kind of happy that they kind of got through it quickly. Just because it was like, are we going to waste 20 minutes of the movie on whether we're going to go back or not when the answer is going to be yes?
I guess that's true.
I'm going to see that as a waste of 20 minutes,
That's true.
So I was okay with that.
But I feel like I feel like at least one person should have said like.
Well,
no.
it was kind of funny because everyone was for it, and then they tell their families about this decision, and all of them, they run through all of them, and then they get to Michael Pena's character, and his wife's kind of a bitch. His wife's like, "Are you kidding me?"
She was upset about it at first.
She was the only one, which made it stand out to me, where I was like, "Oh, jeez, okay."
She was like, she was upset about it at first, but it seemed like right after she was just like, "Yeah, okay, whatever."
Definitely. She puts her hand to the computer really cheesily.
She does. And
with the baby in her arm.
Yeah, Michael Pena's like, if Mark,
like, right,
Mark
fine.
would do it if
yeah.
I did.
He'd do it for me. Yeah, stuff like that.
To me, I felt like it was just like it was like a little bit weird, like seeing them all like say yes, we don't care about like our family or whatever. Yeah. We'll just go back to see Mark Wani and waste another 300 days of our lives. Yeah, I guess it's
different if your husband's at his buddy's house to tell him to come home, but when he's in space, it's a little harder to tell him.
Definitely, yeah. I don't know. It's that scene sort of put me off a little, but I guess the way you explained it, it sort of makes sense. Like, we don't want to waste another.
That's at least the way I saw it.
But did you feel like, because to me, like in the first leg of the movie, it does feel I am like invested, but you said that the movie felt like it went by pretty quickly. I thought the movie dragged on, and I felt like in the first leg it was fine, but then as we started getting like more like into the second half, I was just like, oh man, this is
I guess that's what you get that's what you're gonna get with a sci-fi movie like this, just because any rescue mission is always gonna have pitfalls,
and that's the problem. Yeah,
so when the rocket blows up, you're like, oh god, no, what are we gonna do? And so I can kind of see where these things blow up, and you're like, all right, now we got to get back to where we started, and that's frustrating. But I think it's just part of the experience.
It makes sense in that, like, this is a bit a really long, epic journey into like a film and like what these guys have to do, because he's in Mars. He's what is it, 140 million miles away. So like, yeah, obviously it's gonna take a long time for to be able to save this guy. So they really need like this runtime. But I felt like they could have found more ways to make it things more interesting to me, or just like would have, or with like the writing or whatever. It's just, I don't know.
No doubt. I didn't have too many problems with the length, especially with the montages. You kind of fly by the uninteresting stuff.
Well, I guess that's just your opinion.
That is my opinion. Film dispute.
Right.
Well, let's go to the David Bowie montage, because that's the second attempt, I believe, to save him in a way without the rocket resupply. And I don't know. That's probably my favorite scene in the movie, that David Bowie montage. I really like that montage.
Yeah, I mean, it was nice. The editing was good. Like I said, dude, the wide shots in this movie are so like beautiful to look at. Like Ridley Scott really knows how to direct. Like, he's really good at world building. That's like his shtick, with Blade Runner and with Alien. Worlds in those movies is like beautiful and gorgeous and
complete.
Yeah, and while still looking like damp and like dirty, at least with like Blade Runner. That's really what Ridley Scott is good at. So I feel like with a lot of these extreme long shots, it just, you staring in awe.
Yeah.
With like a lot of the shots that you see in this montage.
Definitely. And you get to see little, you go into different districts of NASA, and of course they look not nearly as nice as any of these buildings you go into in this movie, but you still kind of get to meet these people and appreciate each of these little engineers, each of these individuals that made something happen that was so great. And you kind of, in that montage, you get everyone's piece of the puzzle there.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, I guess. Wasn't there like a point in the movie where it was just like 25 minutes or so where it was just dedicated to the people on planet Earth, and like Martin Wani wasn't even like a thing? Did you notice that in the movie, where they didn't even like it was just completely focused on like Chiwetel Ejiofor's character and like
I think we're supposed to see Chiwetel Ejiofor, whatever his name is. I'm sorry if you're listening, but you're not. But I felt he was the good side of NASA, and Jeff Daniels was kind of the guy we didn't like, and the guy who wasn't wanting to do everything to save Watney the correct way. And so when you get Chiwetel in there and you get him to I think they go to a diner at one point, and he's doing some calculations, and I love that it's all in his mind, and he doesn't tell anyone because he's still doing the calculations himself. And then he says, like, I'm going to Texas or something like that. He takes a plane ride, and he's doing as much as he can on Earth, almost as much as Mark Watney's doing on Mars to keep himself alive. I feel like Chiwetel Ejiofor's character was the crux of NASA, where, you know, he's the main driver trying to get Watney back.
That makes sense. I'm just saying though, like, I felt like there was a point where it was just focusing way too much on that part, and I'm just like, I just want to see Mark Watney again.
Yeah, I think that maybe what they were doing was just because, like you said, the landscape is kind of dull, even though you do get some great landscape shots of Mars. I think it is good I think it helped me, at least, to get away from Mars for a little bit.
Well, did you know that that they actually NASA, like in real life NASA, when they were making this movie, NASA like required the filmmakers to include like a few things. Like they were required to include like a few things that had to be in the film in order for the film to be made.
Oh, really?
I'm not sure exactly what those are.
Like plot points or objects?
Like facts or like something with their system or like and how they run or something maybe. Okay. But I feel like it had to do with like why there was so many shots used in NASA, or like there was that long like sort of period where it was just a shot on planet Earth, and so that's why I feel like it sort of dragged on for me there. I don't know, just didn't make too much sense.
I can see it. I didn't have too many problems like I said, but so let's skip to him being saved, or at least the start of him being saved. So he takes the long journey with the rover, excuse me. Yeah. And he's going, and he's got this point that Chiwetel wants him to go to get saved. And so he, there's that scene where they're trying to save weight. There's always that scene in the space movie where they're trying to save weight, and what can we take out to make it lighter? And so they do all that, and those are great scenes when Mark Watney's on Mars, tearing out the roof and ripping out the chairs. That's a good scene. Yeah. And then it's basically just a bunch of math at that point, which is good because the book is mostly math, and so they definitely kept it true to the book there. And so, what did you think about the final scene there, the rescue scene?
Like I said, there wasn't any tension. That was my thing. There wasn't.
I felt when Jessica Chastain comes out on that chair connected to a wire, I almost bursted out laughing. It's a comedic. I didn't like the chair at all in that scene. I thought it was a little over the top.
Yeah, I mean, that's like a real thing, though, right? It's
like
something that
it is. It just, I don't know. The way it was shot, it was just. I don't think we were supposed to laugh there, and I definitely did.
I laughed more when freaking Matt Damon pokes a freaking
does the Iron Man?
Yeah, does the Iron Man thing. He's literally flying.
Well, even before, he calls himself like a space pirate and stuff like that. You can tell he's losing his mind on Mars. But yeah, I didn't like the Iron Man scene.
Yeah, it's just like I said, dude, like, he's gonna make it fine through that thing. It's just like
yeah, but at that point, I mean, there's like 10-15 minutes left of the movie, and that's when you want him to get saved. I was ready at that point. I was like, okay, I'm kind of done with this movie. This movie's been going on perfect. It would be perfect timing for him to get saved right here, and he did. So
from my point of view, I felt like it was just like, all right, I'm done with this. Can we just move on? Like, I mean, like, because this long journey, it's a fine journey once you see him saved and you see him teaching in these like in this like college, university or whatever, people who are starting to go into NASA, and then it just ends. I was just like, yeah, that was
Did you like the final speech to the classmates?
Yeah, it was alright. I don't know.
I found it powerful. I liked it.
I guess, yeah, it was just it was short and sweet, I guess.
Definitely the summary of the entire movie. He basically says, one person's ingenuity and one person's ability, surrounded by a lot of people to try and help. It makes for successful situations.
Yeah, but like, after finishing the movie, finally, I was just like, it was fine, but I wouldn't imagine myself like really ever watching it again.
It seems like you liked it less on the rewatch. Is that true?
I did. I definitely did like it a lot less.
Just the Watney character annoyed you?
Watney's character, the other characters, it's just like not all of them were very interesting to me. Some of them were just kind of just bland and boring and sort of cliched. I don't know why there was that. Of course, like Kate Mara and Sebastian Stan's character, they had like that weird, like, I guess they're together.
At the end, that was confusing.
Yeah, seeing everybody's conclusion was just like, it was like fine. I don't know. It was just like, it just dragged on for me. Really, it was a drag, but I do appreciate a lot of the production aspects because it does look really good and performances are good. You were saying how you didn't like Gravity, and I think a big issue with that movie was that it looked good, but like the acting and the writing in that movie was just like really non-human, I guess. Like Sandra Bullock and George Clooney, they just seemed very like, I don't know, weird caricatures, and I can't really say the same for The Martian. I feel like they're better written there, but like not to the point where I really enjoy watching them on screen,
Yeah.
So that's my thing. You have anything else to say about that?
My final thoughts. I like this movie. I think that, I kind of knew what I was getting myself into with a rescue movie like this. The spectacle of it, it looks beautiful. I think we can both agree on the looks of this movie.
It does.
The acting works for me, and I think it's saved a little bit by the quirkiness of Mark Watney's character himself, but also the fact that he's alone. He's kind of losing his mind a little bit, so it kind of works for me a little more. Just because of that?
I didn't really see that. I didn't see that he was really losing his mind. I felt like throughout the entire time he still stayed optimistic. Like even when he was.
Well, that goes into his final speech at the end though, where optimism is key. And he might even say something exactly like that, where if you can't trust yourself, who are you gonna trust? I guess.
Yeah, I see that. I don't know. I think I would have wanted to see him like really break though.
I do have a note here. He does finally break. Let me find it. Yeah, it's somewhere here. I have a note. He does break down, and a few times, when you even talked about he's slamming the desk
on the desk or like on the roof of.
There's a few times where he breaks down, but I kind of expected in the astronaut movie like this is for him to be a little bit more staid and a little bit more intellectual in moments like this, especially when we all know it's life or death. Yeah.
I would have liked to have seen more of a psychological aspect, kind of like in Castaway, on how Tom Hanks, he loses his mind completely because he's there for such a long time, and you see that in his character really well in that movie. And
it would have been interesting. I would have liked this. I would have liked to see this movie where Mark Watney wasn't the only one. I would have liked to see one of the others stay with him back, and whether it's a trip or whatever, somehow gets left behind, because I think in space movies like this, there's a lot of arguments to be had, and there's a lot of different decisions, and I think two people maybe having different opinions on the way to do things could have been an interesting dynamic that would have sped things along a little more.
I think a movie that you would really like that has that is Moon. You ever seen the movie Moon?
I've never seen Moon.
It's similar to The Martian. It's similar to The Martian. This guy is stuck in space, but he's stuck in a spaceship. I'm
seeing that tomorrow if that's the case.
Yeah, definitely, dude. It's on Netflix. If you guys are interested, it's a really good movie, and he is not by himself, but he's not by himself in a really interesting sort of way.
Okay.
I think you would really like it.
All right.
What's his face? Kevin Spacey's in it. He's in it weirdly, but he's good in it. You don't see his face. He plays as a voice memo type of character, like robot, I guess. And who's that other guy? He won an Oscar for best supporting actor in
Both typing away furiously here.
Yeah, we're both typing away trying to figure out his
it's a competition now. Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell, yeah, he's the one who stars in the movie. Like I said,
Benedict Wong's in that movie as well. So
he is
a little bit of a crossover there for you guys. So that's your homework, everyone listening. You got to watch Moon.
Yeah, definitely, because that one's a really well done survival movie. I feel like that one's I would say is better than this movie.
All right, so that was our review of The Martian.
So yeah, would you give it a rating?
I forgot about the rating. I'd give this a 9 out of 10. I love this movie.
What?
I love this movie.
Dang, dude, a 9 out of 10.
I love this movie.
Dang. Even with all of the critiques you had with it,
I think none of it is big enough to sway me at all from it. I like Matt Damon's character, and I think the movie is perfectly timed, and there's no slow spots in this movie to me. I think it's a 9 out of 10.
Wow, I give it a 6.
6. All right.
I give it a 6.
Do you want to do a quick discussion on next week's movie? Do this on air.
A quick discussion on what we're going to talk about.
What do you want to talk about? I think I kind of picked The Martian last time.
Okay.
So I think it's your chance.
Well, I think have you ever seen the movie Suspiria?
I have not.
All right. Well, there's two different Suspirias. There's one from the 19. There's one from the 70s.
77.
Yeah, there's one from the 70s, which is a good movie. But the one that I want to watch, it came out last year.
2018.
He's directed by an Italian director, and it's actually a clash between two different languages. It's mostly English, It's mostly English, but there's a few scenes where there is some Italian in it, but it is a pretty freaky movie.
All right. Well, that's going to be next week. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode on The Martian. We'll see you next time.
All right. I am Nate.
My name is Kevin.
And this is Film Dispute.